Shin was just a young boy when the war took his parents from him. He couldn't comprehend why his mother and father had disappeared. On a particular day, he turned to his elder brother, Shuri, seeking answers. Abruptly, Shuri's anger flared, and he forcefully grasped Shin, pinning him to the ground. Accusing Shin, Shuri asserted that it was Shin who had caused their parents' demise, and that soon he would meet the same fate. In that very moment, Shin's life seemed to slip away, but a compassionate priest intervened, rescuing him from Shuri's grip and reviving him. Ever since that incident, Shin has carried a lasting scar on his neck, serving as a constant reminder of his brother's actions. However, something even more extraordinary occurred to Shin after his near-death experience. He started to hear the voices of those who had departed from this world. As for Shuri, he departed to partake in the war and never returned. It was 4 years later when a significant change took place in Shin's life. Amid the hushed whispers of the deceased, he distinctly heard the voice of his brother Rei. In that moment, Shin knew that Rei was gone forever. It compelled Shin to enlist in the military, but the conflict he found himself in was no ordinary war. It unfolded as a clash between two significant nations, the Republic of San Magnolia and the Jayadian Empire. In the past, Shin had resided in the Republic, but their side was losing ground. Consequently, the leaders introduced a rule. If one lacked the silver hair and eyes like Shin's, they were no longer considered true Alba citizens. They all found themselves trapped, assigned to safeguard a special camp situated outside the country's 85 primary regions. This camp came to be known as the 86th District, which earned its inhabitants the moniker the 86. The 86 were tasked with operating formidable combat machines called juggernauts, serving as the Republic's defense. They were instructed to fight for 5 years, with the promise of freedom if they managed to survive that period. This was the same pledge made to Shin's parents, but a grave falsehood had tainted the Republic's narrative, the assertion that no one suffered harm in this war. In reality, the enemy, the Jayadian Empire, employed robots for combat, while the Republic used the 86 individuals as pilots. They disregarded the humanity of the 86, and as a result, they claimed that the war had no casualties, treating the 86 as if they weren't real people. After dedicating 4 years to the army, Shin earned the nickname the Undertaker. He held the esteemed position of the strongest among the 86 and led the Spearhead Squadron, a group comprising other formidable 86 members who had been engaged in the battle for approximately the same duration as Shin. Their collective aspiration was a significant one, to serve for 5 years and finally attain the freedom that had eluded every 86 before them. The epithet the Undertaker was bestowed upon Shin due to the weighty burden he bore, that of having to make the agonizing decision to end the lives of his comrades. It wasn't a choice born out of cruelty or madness, but rather a desperate measure taken when one of his team members suffered severe injuries during combat. Shin made this painful decision with a purpose in mind, to prevent the enemy, the legions, from obtaining their comrades' brains. The legions intended to use these brains to enhance the capabilities of their robotic forces. Shin was compelled to make this heart-wrenching choice more than 500 times. Each time, he would take a piece of metal and carefully inscribe the name of his fallen friend as a lasting tribute to their memory. However, today marks a new beginning for Shin and his squad, all thanks to their former commander's decision to contribute to Truckgun's monthly quota. During a mission, the former commander could perceive the voices of the departed within Shin's thoughts. As a result, he chose to put a cap on it himself. Consequently, they now have a new leader, a woman by the name of Lena, affectionately known as Lena. She holds the rank of Alba Major in the Republic of San Magnolia's army. Lena's primary responsibility entails remaining safe within the capital, while leading a group of 86 against the Empire's formidable legions. These legions continually grow in strength with each acquisition of an 86 brain. To aid her team in battles, Lena wields a special tool known as a parade. This device enables her to experience what the 86 fighters go through and communicate with them, even from a distance. What sets Lena apart from the rest of the Albus is her compassionate heart. She firmly believes that every 86 is a genuine person and treats them with kindness, in stark contrast to the prevailing attitude among the Albas. Most of them harbor prejudiced views and possess a superiority complex, treating the 86 as subordinates and derogatorily referring to them as pigs. 1 week later, following her introduction and discussions with her new squadron, Lena delivered a crucial piece of information. An impending attack was imminent. However, she was already running behind schedule. The squadron had been well aware of the approaching threat and stood ready for deployment. Despite being vastly outnumbered by hundreds of legions facing just a few 20s of the 86, the numerical disadvantage held little significance. Taking strategic advantage of the high ground, Shin's squad commenced a relentless barrage of gunfire that seemed almost frenzied. The Legion's robotic forces rapidly dwindled before they could even comprehend the chaotic situation unfolding. They eventually managed to pinpoint the 86 positions, but by then, it was too late. As they launched their missiles, the 86 proved elusive targets, dancing through the battlefield with an effortless grace. It became a one-sided battle, where the Spearhead Squadron's combat skills vastly outshone those of the automated robots. They effortlessly sidestepped incoming attacks while leveraging the terrain to eliminate the mechanical adversaries. Only when faced with long-range, gunner-type Scorpion fire did they find it necessary to divide their forces and stage a strategic retreat. Lena earnestly attempted to fulfill her role by providing information, but Shin's dismissive remark deemed her efforts useless. He firmly believed that any information shared would only aid the enemy in locating them. Fueled by an unwavering determination to emerge victorious, Shin took charge and decided to single-handedly bear the weight of this battle. Without hesitation, he charged forward, deftly dodging incoming missiles and bullets with a grace that defied the odds. He leaped onto a Legion robot, rendering it a heap of scrap metal with precise gunfire. Swiftly returning to the streets, Shin navigated behind the ruins of demolished buildings to shield himself from enemy fire. He repeated his daring charge, deploying his Juggernaut's blade to sever the legs of the Legion's robots and maintaining his agility to evade their retaliatory strikes. Employing a cable, he scaled a bridge, then descended upon another Legion robot with a well-placed leap. Confusion and chaos gripped the Legion's robotic forces as they were mercilessly blasted into retreat. In the aftermath of the battle, Lena began reaching out to her squad regularly, especially to Shin. However, her persistent efforts were met with reluctance from the squadron members. They harbored deep mistrust for the very people who had stripped them of their rights and forced them into deadly combat. Moreover, suspicions arose due to Lena's apparent proximity to Shin. Lena, though well-intentioned and somewhat naive, held firm in her belief that they could win the war and bring about change. However, for the first time since her arrival, one of the squad members fell in battle. She attempted to apologize to the squad, but some members couldn't contain their frustration. They chastised her for resembling another Alba who regarded them as mere slaves rather than human beings. This is why she remained in the comforts of the capital, distant from the front lines. However, her most significant shortcoming lay in her failure to learn their real names, relying solely on their nicknames. Following her emotional breakdown, Lena mustered the courage to call the squad and extend her heartfelt apologies, expressing a genuine desire to know their real names. The atmosphere took a positive turn, with everyone introducing themselves and enjoying the camaraderie. When Shin disclosed his name, Lena experienced a sudden realization. She knew his elder brother. Years ago, when Lena was still a child, Lena's father tragically lost his life in the attack, but she was miraculously saved by none other than Shin's brother Shuri. Lena emerged as the sole survivor, forced into hiding from the relentless pursuit of the Legion's robots. In a twist of fate during that dire day, Shuri materialized and skillfully evaded the robot's barrage, seizing the perfect moment to eliminate it. It was during this encounter that Shuri confided in Lena, expressing a fervent desire for his 5 years of service to come to an end so he could return home and care for Shin. However, Shin's recollections of his brother were far from idyllic. In his childhood, Shuri had descended into madness, unjustly blaming Shin for their parents' deaths and nearly strangling him to death. Nevertheless, those turbulent memories seemed to belong to the past, for Shuri harbored no intentions of harming Shin anymore. He couldn't, as he had already passed away. During Shin's early years of service, he stumbled upon the Juggernaut his brother had piloted, only to find a lifeless body within, devoid of its brain. Several weeks later, in the midst of another skirmish, they were startled by the voice of their fallen comrade, who had recently passed away. Lena was deeply unsettled upon hearing these voices of the deceased, prompting Shin's furious response. He realized that the Legion had taken their companion's brain, transforming her into a puppet for the sake of the ongoing war. Determined to grant her soul peace, Shin identified the robot's coordinates and rallied the entire squad to launch an assault, ultimately putting an end to her torment. Lena struggled to comprehend why she could hear these voices, and Shin provided an explanation. Unlike the Republic, which employed the 86 as pilots, the Legion used the brains of deceased 86 members to create their robots. This allowed them to mass-produce evolving robotic forces. Consequently, Shin concluded that the Republic faced a grim fate because once all the 86 were gone, they would have no one left to fight for them. Lena found this hard to accept, remaining hopeful and clinging to the belief that they could end the war before all the 86 were lost. Some time later, Shin's squad found themselves in a wild, jubilant celebration, but once more, the call to battle disrupted their festivities. They embarked on a journey through a dense forest, skillfully dodging the relentless barrage of heavy artillery unleashed by the Legion. The Legion's robots had undergone significant evolution, having already deciphered the Spearhead's most commonly used strategies and making every effort to evade them. Nevertheless, the spearheads were propelled by an adrenaline-fueled fervor. They retaliated with fierce determination, sending the enemy robots to the scrapyard with their relentless firepower. As the battle intensified, the Legion's forces swelled, and tragedy struck when one of the juggernauts was violently blown into a swamp. Another squad member bravely attempted to aid her, but was tragically met with the same fate, being blown away. To compound their misery, some of the Legion's new humanoid robots lashed onto his juggernaut, initiating a self-destruct sequence. Meanwhile, the girl remained trapped in the swamp, unable to free herself. In a desperate attempt to fend off the encroaching Legion robots, she fired her gun, but her shots had no effect. Faced with the grim reality of imminent doom and no hope of timely rescue, she made the heart-wrenching decision to end her own life once the battle had concluded. Days later, as the remnants of Shin's squad attempted to regroup, he conducted a grim search to ascertain if any of his former companions had survived the recent explosion. To his surprise, one had endured the blast, but was left severely injured. Faced with unbearable suffering, the survivor chose to end his own misery. In light of the harrowing events they had experienced, Lena resolved to seek assistance for her beleaguered squad. She submitted a request for reinforcements, even an aerial strike, desperately seeking any aid available. However, her pleas were met with a heart-wrenching denial. As days passed, Shin's squad received orders to investigate a suspicious location that bore the unmistakable scent of a trap. The Republic seemed determined to prevent their quest for freedom and had a history of sending them on perilous, seemingly suicidal missions. True to their suspicions, the mission was indeed an ambush. The Legion, positioned 75 miles away, unleashed long-range cannons, decimating half of Shin's squad, reducing the original 24 to a mere 9 survivors who narrowly managed to escape with their lives. Lena's determination to seek reinforcements from higher ranks persisted, driven by the influx of new robots and resources. However, she was met with a consistent refusal when it came to requesting additional soldiers. Puzzled by this pattern, the group collectively decided that it was finally time to reveal the unsettling truth to Lena. They disclosed that they were nearing the end of their 5 years of service, and the Republic appeared to have little regard for their lives. In essence, they were being sent on missions with little hope of survival, as the Republic seemed more interested in their demise than their well-being. The resources they received weren't intended for their benefit. Instead, they were meant for the next squad that would replace them after their inevitable obliteration. This was why the Republic had dispatched them on the recent mission, and any future mission would likely follow the same pattern, a suicide mission. Lena struggled to come to terms with this revelation, unable to comprehend why they hadn't escaped or sought revenge on the Republic. With their formidable juggernauts, both options seemed within reach. It was then that the squad's vice captain stepped forward to offer an explanation. They couldn't find satisfaction in those actions. They couldn't bear the guilt of allowing the legions to annihilate the Republic, especially when some Albus had aided and protected them in the past. In fact, some had even chosen to fight alongside them. It wouldn't be fair to condemn all Albers to suffering and death when some harbored compassionate hearts. Moreover, they couldn't let the sacrifices of the 86 be in vain. They had fought together, lived together, and loved each other, which is why they were determined to fight for everything that mattered to them, even if it meant marching toward their own inevitable end. In Lena's quest to seek help, she turned to her friend Annette, who held a position in the military research and development sector. Lena implored Annette to assist her in putting an end to the ongoing injustices, but Annette's response was marked by a sense of resignation. She firmly believed that everything was already destined for doom, and Lena should accept this reality. According to Annette, there was no way to protect the 86, given the 9 years of entrenched discrimination they had endured. Annette regarded Lena's sense of justice as insufficient to challenge the deeply ingrained mindset of the Republic. Lena, however, remained steadfast in her determination to aid the 86, which only served to infuriate Annette further. Annette was intimately aware of the futility of trying to change the prevailing mindset within their country. She shared a personal anecdote with Lena, recounting how, before the war, she used to play daily with an 86 child. Yet, as societal pressures mounted, people began to criticize her association with the 86 child. In response, Annette distanced herself, cruelly labeling the child as dirty and inferior to her own kind. During that same period, her parents sought to protect the child's family, as they were friends and couldn't bear to see them suffer in the war. However, young Annette made a heart-wrenching choice, betraying their friendship by allowing the child and his family to be taken away to a concentration camp. Annette believed this act was indicative of the pervasive moral decay within society, with everyone complicit in the atrocities. She further revealed that even the para-raid system, the very device they used, was built on experiments conducted on the 86 until their deaths. Following their heated argument, Lena decided to turn to the general for assistance. However, the general unequivocally rejected her plea, stating that they could not permit any 86 to survive. They were fully aware of the grave crimes committed against the 86 over several years, and their only solution was the extermination of the 86. Shin finally received word of his brother's voice and promptly contacted Lena to share the news. However, he had more than just communication in mind. Together with his squad, they devised a plan to locate and confront his brother's robot. If they could somehow survive, their intention was to make their escape and seek a haven far from the clutches of the Republic, where they could finally lead peaceful lives. As the last 5 surviving members, they cherished their remaining moments at their base before setting out for their ultimate battle. Upon reaching the location, they encountered not only Shori's robot but also a multitude of other Legion units. The enemy numbers seemed to grow exponentially with each passing moment, and now they faced insurmountable odds. 5 against hundreds, it appeared impossible to secure victory. Yet Shin, with an eerie grin, began to advance slowly, his singular focus fixed on confronting his own brother. His squadmates, despite the overwhelming enemy forces, followed suit. The Legion responded with a relentless barrage of long-range attacks, intensifying their pace. Shin had one unyielding objective: to confront and defeat his brother. Amidst a flurry of dodges and counterattacks, he closed in on Shori. Despite his relentless efforts, Shin's heavy artillery proved ineffective, forcing him to retreat momentarily. During this chaotic confrontation, one of the Legion's robots attempted to take down Shin, but was swiftly neutralized by his own robot. Shori, despite his brain being inside a Legion's robot, insisted on a one-on-one confrontation with his brother. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad expended their ammunition, tirelessly combating the Legion's robots. Their efforts seemed to yield a glimmer of hope as they began to believe in their chances of survival. However, this newfound hope was short-lived as an entirely fresh wave of enemies suddenly emerged, overwhelming them once more. Just when things seemed bleakest, Lena made contact with the squad and orchestrated an aerial strike to assist them. Her decision to intervene stemmed from a surprising revelation. In the midst of the intense battle, Shin continued to engage his brother, employing evasive maneuvers while seeking openings to retaliate. He moved deftly, slipping through the enemy's lines to minimize exposure to incoming fire. Suddenly, he leaped into the air, using his blade to slash his brother's robot and launching a missile with the intent of delivering the final blow. However, he failed to account for the fact that his brother's robot was constructed from liquid metal, which absorbed the explosion and unleashed a set of appendages to pursue him. In his desperate attempt to escape, Shin found himself hurled away. As Shin struggled in unconsciousness from his brother's devastating blow, the squad arrived to seemingly rescue him, but it soon became apparent that this was a diversion. Lena launched a missile toward their location. However, Shori, determined to personally confront his brother, shielded Shin from the impending attack. In a moment of incredible resolve, the unconscious Shin, driven by his mission, flipped his juggernaut upright, ascended upon it, and fired a shot, successfully neutralizing his brother's robot. At long last, his mission was fulfilled, and his brother could finally rest in peace. In the aftermath, as Shin's emotions surged, he allowed himself the release of tears, reminiscing about the few cherished memories he had shared with his sibling. With their mission complete, the last surviving members of the Spearhead Squad made a resolute decision to depart, embarking on their journey toward a peaceful and liberated existence. However, before leaving, they bid a heartfelt farewell to Lena, who was overcome with tears, urging her not to be left alone. Several weeks passed as the group sought refuge away from the Republic's grasp. Their journey was fraught with continuous skirmishes against the relentless legions. Ultimately, they settled on an abandoned school as a temporary sanctuary. However, they were all acutely aware that this would be their last night together. Shin's heightened senses detected the presence of Legion robots nearby, and with only one juggernaut remaining, the odds were stacked against them. As they made their preparations to confront the incoming threat, Shin made a surprising decision. He switched places with one of his companions, taking control of the juggernaut himself. However, his intentions became clear when he chose to go solo and departed, leaving his squad bewildered. He reminded them that the one driving was the one who had to engage in the battle. With determination in his heart, Shin leaped into the battlefield, deftly evading a hail of bullets while systematically dismantling Legion robots, emerging as a one-man army. But his solo charge was abruptly halted when an ultra-long-range cannon blast sent him reeling backward. 2 more devastating attacks followed, rendering Shin's juggernaut immobile. As the Legion robots closed in, poised to extract his brain, it appeared that Shin was on the brink of demise. However, in a dramatic turn of events, his friends emerged to save the day, unleashing a barrage of machine gun fire against the Legion robots. In the ensuing clash, explosions rocked the battlefield, claiming the lives of Shin's last 5 companions. As the dust settled and the Legion robots approached to seize Shin's brain, the fate of the lone survivor hung in the balance. Days after the 86 embarked on their journey to freedom, Lena visited their abandoned base, assessing the living conditions they had left behind. There, she discovered their poignant farewell message. With Shin's request request that she bring flowers if she ever found their remains. This heartfelt message served as a powerful reminder of her motivation to continue fighting and protecting the remaining 86. However, Lena's world took another turn when the spearhead squadron of the Republic of San Magnolia, led by Major Lena, went rogue, severing their ties with her. Left in solitude, she found herself reflecting on the cherished memories of the bond they had shared. Seeking solace, Lena ventured into one of their division's headquarters, where she intended to meet with her uncle, colonel in rank. Within the headquarters, some officers ridiculed her for her contrasting ideals regarding the treatment of the 86, who were often regarded as mere war machines rather than humans. Lena chose to disregard their taunts and proceeded to engage in a conversation with her uncle. During their meeting, Lena's uncle reprimanded her for her handling methods, which had garnered complaints from others. Although he still held reservations about her approach, Lena assured him of her competence, especially when it came to confronting the Legion. Following the meeting, Lena received a call from her new squadron leader, Cyclops, who was stationed outside the Legion's region on guard duty. She promptly issued orders for him to maintain vigilance and provide regular reports while she departed to meet with Annette. Curiosity piqued, Cyclops couldn't help but question Lena's choice of addressing Annette by her code name instead of her real name. In response, Lena revealed her rationale, explaining that it was a duty she upheld as a handler. She harbored a genuine fear of allowing emotional attachments to flourish, akin to the profound bond she had shared with Spearhead. By maintaining a certain distance through code names, she aimed to avoid the emotional complexities that could arise. Nonetheless, Lena's thoughts frequently drifted to her former squadron, and she remained steadfast in her commitment to meeting their expectations of her as their handler. She clung to the hope that one day they might reunite, provided they had survived their harrowing ordeals. Remarkably, the Spearhead squadron had managed to endure their last sacrificial mission and had successfully found refuge within the Empire of Giant. In a twist of fate, they had been rescued during their battle against the Legion by the newly formed Giant Federacy, which had toppled the oppressive empire and reclaimed territories once dominated by the Legion. While Shin remained unconscious, he drifted into a vivid dream in which his brother, Shuri, materialized before him. In this ephemeral encounter, Shuri implored Shin to rouse himself and continue the journey alongside his steadfast comrades until the very end. With a heartfelt plea, Shuri encouraged Shin to keep his memory alive, stressing the significance of perpetually seeking happiness. In a desperate attempt, Shin strained to catch up to his departing brother, but an insurmountable distance gradually separated them until Shuri dissolved into the other. As Shin stirred from his dream, he found himself in a sterile medical chamber, where individuals clad in hazmat suits monitored his condition through a window. The solemn atmosphere was disrupted when the president of the Federacy, Ernst, entered the room. With warmth in his voice, Ernst introduced himself and extended a hearty welcome to Shin and Jihad. Ernst began to share the tale of how they had triumphed over the Empire, and as the conversation unfolded, Shin's apprehension intensified. The mention of their discovery after the Legion had defeated and apprehended them dredged up memories of his fallen comrades sprawled on the battlefield. Suddenly, the once opaque windows turned transparent, revealing Shin's concerned friends standing outside, gazing in at him. Ernst, before his departure, took a moment to introduce himself to Shin's friends, reassuring them of their safety within the embrace of the Federacy. The group engaged in a candid discussion about their recent skirmish with the Legion, during which they candidly expressed their concern for Shin's decision to confront the enemy alone, fully aware of the futility of such a solitary endeavor. In response, Shin offered a heartfelt apology for causing them distress with his actions. A month elapsed, and Ernst returned to officially extend a warm welcome to the Federacy and grant them citizenship. Despite their initial skepticism regarding his benevolence, Ernst succeeded in persuading them to explore this new land with its contrasting ideals. He led them on a tour through the vibrant streets of the city, where the jubilation and warmth exuded by the citizens provided a stark contrast to the harsh reality they had known for the past decade. As they peered out of the car window, they were entranced by the beauty and serenity that surrounded them. However, they couldn't help but notice a group of demonstrators advocating for the safety and well-being of the 86 who remained in the Republic. Their journey with Ernst continued as he brought them to his residence and introduced them to his adopted daughter, Frederica. In a heartwarming revelation, Ernst declared that he had adopted them as well, embracing them as his own children. As Shin settled into his newfound room, Ernst paid him a visit and presented him with a tag bearing his brother's personal war machine mark, a relic from his previous unit. The sight of this tag stirred a wellspring of emotions within Shin, prompting him to sit in quiet contemplation, his gaze fixed intently upon the poignant memento. As time flowed steadily on, the group exerted their best efforts to assimilate into the rhythm of their newfound life, seamlessly merging into the tranquil tapestry of their surroundings. Shin embarked on a visit to the public library in search of a book, a seemingly ordinary task that would set a series of events into motion. In a twist of fate, his choice of literature captured the curiosity of a young girl named Lena. Approaching her with kindness, he offered her the book, yet his demeanor, steeped in an aura of aloofness, proved intimidating, causing Lena to flee in alarm. Fortunately, her brother, Eugene, intervened, retrieving her and guiding her back to Shin to express their heartfelt gratitude. Despite Shin's apparent disinterest, he found himself engaged in a brief conversation with Eugene, marking the genesis of a newfound acquaintance. In parallel, Frederica and Nina, sharing a natural affinity, began to forge a connection of their own. As the days unfolded, the group continued their gradual integration into the peaceful environment, cultivating friendships along the way, a source of immense satisfaction for them all. One fateful day, while Shin lay ensconced in slumber, he found himself ensnared in a series of enigmatic dreams, each marked by abstract landscapes and haunting voices of fallen 86. Beseeching him for salvation from the clutches of the Legion. In these dreamscapes, he discovered himself bereft of a weapon, rendering him powerless in the face of their pleas. These recurring dreams not only invaded his sleep but also disrupted his visit to the library, where he was roused from his somnolent state by Eugene, who informed him that sleeping within the library's hallowed halls was a practice frowned upon. Eugene extended an invitation to Shin, proposing they attend a forthcoming military parade together. He expressed his heartfelt desire to witness the parade's grandeur before embarking on his journey to enroll in the academy. As they conversed, Eugene revealed his anxieties concerning the ongoing conflict at Jad's borders, fearing the repercussions it might bring to the idyllic town where Nina resided. Eugene's aspiration was clear: to play a role in quelling the conflict before it could spiral further out of control. Shin neither accepted nor declined the invitation, leading Eugene to depart, accompanied by his sister Lena. As the military parade unfolded in all its grandeur, the 86 observed with a mixture of emotions, reflecting on the weight of their duty to bring an end to the protracted war. The day wore on, and eventually they made their way back to their new homes within the serene embrace of the giant empire. It was Kurina who first voiced her inner turmoil to the group, sharing her profound discontentment with the tranquility of their life in the empire. Her heart yearned for the battlefield, where she believed her true purpose lay. Her sentiments resonated deeply with her comrades, and together they made the collective decision to approach Ernst, their adoptive father and leader, about their desire to return to the front lines. Ernst, though initially taken aback, had already sensed the undercurrent of restlessness among them. He reluctantly agreed to their wishes, acknowledging the inevitability of their choice. Frederica played a crucial role in swaying his decision, providing counsel and reassurance that their journey could lead to a promising future beyond the war's end. In a surprising revelation, Frederica disclosed her true identity as the last surviving princess of the giant empire, the very nation responsible for the creation of the Legion that had wrought devastation upon many lives, including those of the 86. She bore no resentment, as she recognized her youth at the time and the influence of those around her. Frederica expressed her desire to join them on their mission, driven by her wish to rescue Kyria, her loyal knight who had been transformed into a Legion unit. She also unveiled her unique ability, akin to Shin's, to perceive individuals' pasts and presents. She held awareness of the events surrounding Shin and Shuri, an awareness that reinforced their bond. As the dawn of a new year bathed the world in fresh beginnings, they left behind their life under Ernst's care and embarked on a poignant quest to usher in an era of lasting peace. Upon their arrival at the academy, Shin forged a steadfast friendship with Eugene, their camaraderie evident during tactical exercises. It was during one such drill that Shin executed a bold and unexpected maneuver, deftly guiding his unit to narrowly avoid a collision with Marcel and his partner. The audacious move, while skillful, incurred the wrath of the general. Both Shin and Eugene, along with the other involved parties, faced reprimands and received penalties as they navigated the complex dynamics of their new environment. Exiting the tense situation in the drill yard, Marcel, harboring envy for Shin's extraordinary combat abilities, forged in the crucible of wartime experiences, couldn't suppress his feelings any longer. Frustration overtook him, leading him to confront Shin, whom he regarded as an embodiment of the 86's monstrous prowess in machine combat. Marcel's deeply ingrained prejudice against the 86 colored his perspective and fueled his resentment. In a quiet moment, Marcel discreetly pulled Eugene aside, a familiar companion who had shared the burden of such prejudice. They grappled with the complex emotions and questions surrounding their survival in a world where they were often viewed as outcasts. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Gret, the commander of the Nordlicht Squadron, approached Shin and the other 86 seconds, extending an invitation for a brief excursion. Her demeanor radiated a different attitude from Marcel's, one of curiosity and open-mindedness. Red, a member of Gret's squadron, led the group to a place of profound significance. It was a former Legion-controlled field, now transformed into a solemn memorial site. The landscape was dotted with the remnants of ancient war machinery, silent witnesses to the past. At the heart of the site stood a towering monument adorned with the names of their fallen comrades. The group was deeply moved by the sincerity of Gret's gesture, which spoke volumes of her understanding and empathy. In the presence of this solemn tribute to their shared history, the 86 expressed their gratitude to Gret and her squadron. Her warm invitation to join their ranks hung in the air, leaving the group with a profound decision to make. Frederica arrived at the scene accompanied by Fido, a pet unit they had discovered while leaving the ravaged Republic. Though initially damaged, Fido had been meticulously restored by Gret and her skilled operations team. The sight of this familiar apparatus brought joy and nostalgia to the 86, who decided to keep it as a companion on their journey. In a touching moment, Frederica handed Shin his previous pistol, a cherished memento that Ernst had carefully safeguarded. Shin allowed himself a subtle smile as his comrades warmly greeted him, the weapon serving as a tangible link to their shared history. While the 86 adjusted to their new lives in Jad's peaceful haven, the war continued to rage on the Western Front. Graduates from the academy, including Eugene, were thrust into the heart of the conflict. Eugene found himself in a dire situation, trapped by a Legion unit with annihilation looming. In their darkest moment, a ray of hope emerged as a state-of-the-art, swift, and agile unit named the Region Leaf, piloted by Shin, descended from the skies. The Legion forces were momentarily forced to withdraw, and Eugene's life was spared. Back at their base, Eugene, Shin, and Frederica gathered for a meal, enjoying a moment of camaraderie and friendship. As Eugene and Frederica engaged in conversation about Shin, a sense of unity and shared experiences grew stronger. Frederica, capturing the essence of the moment, snapped a photograph of Eugene and Shin before excusing herself. Left to reminisce, old friends shared their thoughts and feelings. Eugene opened up to Shin, expressing his concerns about the younger generation, symbolized by Frederica, being thrust into dangerous situations. He harbored deep worries for Lena, whom he cared about deeply, and lamented the seemingly unending cycle of good people suffering, while the perpetrators of violence continued unchecked. As the alarm blared, signaling an imminent battle, the group swiftly prepared for the impending conflict. Eugene expressed his intent to rejoin them after the fight. However, during the fierce battle, Eugene sustained severe injuries. Frederica informed Shin about Eugene's condition, prompting Shin to rush to his comrade's side. When he reached Eugene, he was confronted with the grim sight of his friend's severe injuries. Eugene, in pain, requested to see a photograph of Lena, the young girl he deeply cared about. Marcel, appearing on the scene, directed his anger toward Shin, blaming him for not doing more to prevent Eugene's injuries. Harsh words were exchanged, but Shin, accustomed to such accusations, advised Marcel to exercise caution, emphasizing the potential return of their adversaries. With that, Shin walked away, his resolve unshaken. Back at the base, Raiden and Shin crossed paths after what felt like an eternity apart. Brett, preoccupied with her efforts to gain the support of higher-ranking officials for her plan involving the 86 Squad and their new Origin Leafs, faced resistance. Undeterred, she continued her advocacy. After subjecting the 86 to rigorous drills, Brett convened a meeting at HQ to discuss her plans. The group, reunited once again, understood that their time together might be fleeting. As Shin and Frederica returned from their recent mission, conversations turned toward the Region Leafs. Reed was curious about their impressions of the new equipment. The 86 team shared their candid opinions, which weren't entirely positive. While their feedback raised some eyebrows, Reed remained understanding. She recognized their value and treated them with far more respect and consideration than they had received in the past. Late in the evening, Frederica spends some quality time with Shin, and they engage in a conversation about Eugene. Shin expresses his concerns about Frederica forming close bonds with individuals who are constantly exposed to danger, especially after the recent incident with Eugene. Frederica, however, has a different perspective on the matter. She emphasizes the significance of such connections, regardless of their duration. Shin questions her about the reason for visiting him and shares that he reminds her of Kyria. Kyria had joined an organization called the Legion to protect Frederica from potential threats, but the situation escalated into chaos, resulting in numerous casualties. Frederica became frightened of Kyria, and to her dismay, he ultimately transformed into one of the enemy machines. She is now worried that Shin might meet a similar fate and doesn't want to lose another friend. Following their conversation, Shin accompanies Frederica to her room. Later, he reconnects with his friend Raiden. They discuss Shin's warning to Gret about a large number of enemy robots approaching their location. However, Gret did not take the warning seriously. Raiden advises Shin to keep his unique abilities discreet, fearing that if they become widely known, it could lead to trouble. They both share concerns about the trustworthiness of their new team and agree to exercise caution, especially following Frederica's advice. The dreaded day arrives when the Legion launches an attack. Shin, always vigilant, ensures that everyone wakes up early and is fully prepared. Despite some grumbling, his efforts pay off, and they are ready for whatever may come. Tension fills the air as the Legion suddenly appears, plunging them into chaos. Many of their comrades on the Western Front are swiftly overwhelmed, leaving Gret in disbelief at the sheer number of enemy units. Shin, despite not receiving prior authorization from Gret, is ready to assist. She realizes it's time to act. Shin and his squad immediately spring into action, showcasing their impressive combat skills as they eliminate numerous enemy units, providing much-needed support to their allies. However, the battle is far from over, as more Legion units loom on the horizon. Back at the base, Frederica holds out hope of finding her friend Kyria amidst the chaos. She closes her eyes and has a vision that reveals his location on the battlefield, though he doesn't appear to be on friendly terms. As the 86 seconds prove their mettle against the Legion, Shin eventually snaps out of his intense focus. Gret calls them back, as the Legion seems to be adopting a more cautious approach for the time being. Back at their base, Frederica is upset with Shin, comparing his recklessness to Kyria's. Shin tries to comfort her. Later, Frederica shares her vision that the Legion is causing chaos in the Republic's 85th district. Just as they ponder the Legion's next move, a haunting vision of Kyria appears, startling them both. Shin rushes to protect Frederica, but then a massive explosion rocks the area. When the dust clears, they're met with a devastating scene. Many didn't survive. Shin shields Frederica from the gruesome sight, but she sees the destruction and lifeless bodies. She urges Andrew to take her away and pleads with Shin not to become like Kyria. Meanwhile, higher-ranking officials are puzzled by a new weapon called the Morpho, which caused a massive explosion from a great distance, creating a huge crater and taking out a large portion of their forces. This weapon is unlike anything they've seen before, and it's a major threat. After discussions, they believe the 86 might be their best hope for dealing with this new danger. In the cafeteria, the 86 crew discusses their last battle. They're concerned about how Shin got so absorbed in the fight that he didn't hear Frederica trying to contact him. They're worried about his well-being. They also talk about the Morpho, wondering when it will be repaired and where it's located. Frederica advises them to take a break and rest up for when they're needed again. Not everyone agrees with resting, especially during these turbulent times. Frederica then reveals they'll receive special treatment because they're the 86, which doesn't sit well with Karina. She just wants to be treated like anyone else. Shin receives a letter from Lena, the girl who had questioned his actions regarding her brother Eugene. The letter feels heady, as if Lena is asking him the same question. Shin's unsettling smile reappears, and he's overwhelmed by the voices in his head accusing him of things because he's always the one who survives. Before he can open the letter, there's a knock on the door, and the general wants to have a conversation. The big question: can Shin hear those eerie Legion voices in his head? Shin confirms that he can hear them loud and clear. This revelation makes the general consider something. He informs Shin that he's chosen for a significant mission, teaming up with allies, including the Republic of San Magnolia, to deal with the Morpho issue. Gret isn't thrilled about it, thinking it's too dangerous for the 86. She demands a good reason, and the general gives one, but in Shin's mind, he hears the voices of his lost friends saying, it's because they're the 86. After some light-hearted banter, Shin's ghostly friends offer their gratitude and then vanish. It deeply affects Shin, leaving him with a sense of abandonment. Suddenly, he has a vision of Lena, who assures him that she won't forget him. He nods in response, saying his farewells, sensing that this next mission might be his final chapter. As they ride back, Gret adopts her motherly tone once more, wishing the 86 crew would retire and lead peaceful lives. However, Shin isn't having any of it. He's not interested in a pity party. He tells her straightforwardly that he's going to fight until the end. He then leaves the car, making it clear that he's now answering to the assault team, not her. While many of the higher-ups are uncomfortable with sending the 86 on such a risky mission, the 86 crew is fully committed. They believe they were chosen because they're the best for the job. Ernst gets wind of this plan and isn't thrilled. He questions whether they selected the 86 crew because they're viewed as mere war machines, but he's assured it's due to their extraordinary abilities, not labels. However, he warns that he'll intervene if anything goes awry. Gret gathers her team and leads them to an ancient base deep within enemy territory. Inside, she reveals an impressive aircraft that will transport them directly to the Morpho's location. Gret is thrilled about the aircraft and is confident that with Shin's mind-reading abilities and their comrades dealing with other enemies, their mission will go smoothly. However, Frederica remains skeptical. skeptical. She is concerned that they might succeed in destroying the Morpho but face danger on their way back. Shin reminds her that they knew the mission was risky from the start, and despite her valid concerns, the 86 crew is prepared for the dangers they face. Soon after, Shin visits Frederica in her room after she's been ordered to return to headquarters due to her emotional outbursts. He questions her reluctance to return, especially since she's determined to save Kiria. This confrontation leads to an emotional moment as Frederica tearfully reveals her fear that Shin might suffer the same fate as Kiria, leaving her isolated. Despite her desire to rescue Kiria, she's willing to undertake the mission alone. She earnestly asks Shin to stay behind, understanding his aversion to being controlled. Shin, in turn, assures her that he's not the same as Kiria and won't be influenced to join the fight just for her sake. He emphasizes that she needs to be in the Federacy for her safety, given her status as the president's daughter. After a month of preparing the aircraft, the 86 crew gears up and gets ready for their mission. Brett gives them an inspirational pep talk, expressing her heartfelt desire for their safe return. As they're on the verge of departing, Ernst adds his words, echoing Brett's encouragement, but also revealing his deep parental concern. He's visibly distressed at the thought of potential loss, hinting at the emotional toll it might take on him. However, the team, well aware of the danger they face, accepts his worries with stoicism. When the moment arrives, Ernst addresses his forces and allies passionately, signaling the mission's start. His commanders initiate an attack on the Legion, prompting the Legion to switch to defense mode, inadvertently exposing the Morpho. Seizing this opportunity, the Nordlicht aircraft moves quickly, leading them into another intense battle. As they approach the Morpho, they encounter some of the Legion's machines, blocking their path. Brett, thinking on her feet, decides to release the team early so they can continue their crucial mission while she and the others keep the Legion's machines occupied. Shin feels a surge of worry because this wasn't part of the original plan. However, before he can voice his concerns, they find themselves on the ground, ready for action. Things take a tense turn when the aircraft starts to behave strangely and loses communication with the main base. Nevertheless, the 86 team pushes forward with unwavering determination to reach the Morpho, which is not fully operational yet. Just as they are about to take action, the Morpho suddenly activates, and Shin hears a voice he thought he would never hear again. Kiria's voice, filled with anger and a desire to harm him. This unexpected encounter deeply confuses and frightens Shin. When he sees Kiria's face on the Morpho's screen, a flood of sorrowful memories rushes over him. The Morpho unveils its bright, electrifying wings, and with a heavy heart, Shin commands his team to swiftly retreat. The team accelerates away just in time to avoid a massive explosion caused by a powerful beam fired by the Morpho. This explosion damages nearby towers, disrupting radar signals. However, Ernst delivers an impassioned speech, urging everyone not to panic, as he has helped protect the Federacy from further attacks. When the radar systems come back online, they confirm that Shin's team is still intact. Shin quickly deduces that the colossal attack came from a different direction and instructs his team to head toward that location. As they draw closer, they open fire on the new target, but they encounter a major obstacle. The Morpho boasts a protective shield that their weapons cannot penetrate. Nonetheless, they persist in their efforts to break through. Inside the Morpho, Kiria, who now appears to be controlling it, is taken aback by the fact that the 86 team survived the massive explosion caused by the Morpho's attack. Shin hears Kiria's voice resonating loudly in his mind, drowning out the voices of his friends. Someone named No Face advises Kiria to move the Morpho away because his protective shield is malfunctioning. After some initial resistance, Kiria eventually relents and ceases his struggle. Shin abruptly regains his awareness when he hears the voices of his comrades calling for guidance. They are concerned as the Legion is closing in on their location. Shin proposes that they pursue the Morpho. However, some members of the Nordlicht are hesitant, deeming it too perilous to venture deeper into enemy territory. Faced with this difference in opinion, the group splits, with the 86 opting to chase after the Morpho while the rest of the Nordlicht remains behind, preparing to confront the advancing Legion. The following day, Shin receives a communication request from a high-ranking officer, a lieutenant colonel, who inquires about their status and offers backup support. Despite the offer, Shin resolutely declines, believing that retreating or easing up at this crucial juncture would render all their efforts futile. As the day unfolds, the 86 team is taken aback by an unexpected discovery. Frederica, a young acquaintance from their base, had secretly infiltrated the battlefield. She had concealed herself inside a compartment within Fido, one of their robotic units. This revelation frustrates the group, but Frederica stands her ground, admonishing them for seemingly seeking out danger and questioning their choices. She reminds them that they had received clear orders to return to their base in the Federacy. Shin, displaying his leadership, assigns Raiden, one of his trusted comrades, the responsibility of ensuring Frederica's safe return to the base. Though initially hesitant, Raiden eventually agrees, Shin hands Frederica a sidearm, a symbolic gesture that implies that if the battle takes a turn for the worse and they don't survive, she may need it to determine her own fate. Frederica, recognizing the gravity of the moment and the significance of the weapon to Shin, assures him that she will return it to him at the base. She subtly conveys her hope that they all return safely from the mission. During a walk, Raiden pulls Shin aside and suggests that Shin should take Frederica and return to the base. He points out Shin's unique ability to evade the Legion's detection. Raiden's concern arises from the previous battle where Shin appeared to be acting strangely, as if under another's influence. Shin brushes off Raiden's observations, insisting that he's perfectly fine. He even suggests that Raiden should lead the others back to safety while he takes on a potentially deadly solo mission. Raiden, both frustrated and worried, grabs Shin and pushes him against a nearby fence. He demands to know why Shin always appears so eager to confront danger alone. Tensions escalate between the two as Raiden presses Shin about his past actions, particularly the haunting memory of Shin ending his own brother's life. Lost in his thoughts, Shin finds himself unable to provide a clear answer. Raiden admits that he doesn't fight because he seeks death, but because he yearns for peace. He passionately expresses that the entire 86 squad, including himself, wants to stand and fight alongside Shin, hidden from view but close enough to lend their support. The rest of the group listens attentively, their concern evident. They understand the immense burden that Shin carries, facing scorn from both his own sibling and strangers. Despite relying on his unique abilities to tilt the balance in battles, they genuinely wish to stand by his side and provide their support. As the team continues their journey toward the Morpho, they pause to appreciate the natural beauty surrounding them. Frederica expresses her desire to see the ocean, imagining it to be equally breathtaking. The group collectively realizes that none of them have ever seen the sea. Shin seems like he wants to share something but hesitates. Sensing his hesitation, his friend suggests that once the war ends, they should plan a trip to the beach, with him included. During the night, while the others rest, Shin takes up a vigilant position at the entrance of their hideout, accompanied by Fido. Frederica joins him for a conversation. She reflects on the untouched beauty of the Legion's territory, attributing it to the absence of humans. However, Shin provides a different perspective. He believes that the land isn't truly alive because the spirits there lack human desires. Drawing a parallel, he opens up to Frederica about his innermost feelings, admitting that he feels empty inside, devoid of dreams or hopes for peace and beauty. He doesn't even hold the simple wish of visiting the beach with his comrades. In the face of the impending battle with Kiria, Shin's emotions remain distant and numb. Frederica, however, refuses to accept his emotional detachment and insists that he can't be as emotionally numb as he portrays himself. Shin, still adamant, explains that he genuinely feels like he's drifting through life without any purpose, not even experiencing the profound loneliness that tends to accompany each loss of a friend. He believes he lacks the capacity to truly feel alive or to desire anything meaningful. As they continue their journey, the Legion detects their presence and directs Kiria to hunt them down. Along the way, they face enemy units that ambush them. Anju takes a hit and falls off a cliff, but she emerges unharmed with her rig and leaf intact. Trapped, she decides to remain behind with some supplies, prepared to face her enemies. The group manages to shake off these adversaries, only to encounter another group blocking their path. Theo takes on the responsibility of dealing with these enemies to allow the rest to proceed. As they draw nearer to their destination, Kiria becomes aware of their reduced numbers and prepares for a direct confrontation with Shin. In the midst of the intense battle, Kurana valiantly holds off the attacking Legion units, allowing Shin and Raiden to advance. However, a menacing beam from the Morpho narrowly misses them, raising concerns about Kurana's safety. Danger continues to lurk around every corner, and soon after, Frederica and Raiden become targets themselves. Thinking quickly, Shin instructs Frederica to enter Fido, a robotic ally, and directs it to take her back to base for safety. He then proceeds alone, reaching a vantage point to get a clear view of the Morpho. Shin's battle against Kiria begins with a sense of madness overtaking him as they clash. Kiria launches rapid-fire attacks at Shin, but with lightning-fast reflexes, Shin dodges every strike, leaving Kiria both pressed and on edge. The thrill of combat surges within Shin, compelling him to close the gap and deliver precise, powerful blows. As he approaches the Morpho, Kiria taunts him with a mix of mockery and an odd invitation to join the Legion. Meanwhile, Frederica, observing the intense duel from within Fido, recalls a conversation with Eugene in which he hinted that Shin had a secret weapon, but she knew Kiria had a countermeasure. Desperate to warn Shin, she attempts to send a message. A brief moment of clarity pierces Shin's combat trance, saving him from a lethal blow. However, this respite is short-lived as he finds himself staring down the menacing barrel of a Gatling gun. Just when it seems that doom is inevitable, Raiden swoops in, knocking the gun off its mark, an heroic move that doesn't go unnoticed by Kiria. The situation grows even more intense as Kiria retaliates with an electric beam that strikes Raven, causing Shin's Rigon Leaf's engine to falter. With his Rigon Leaf in a precarious state, Shin charges towards the Morpho for one final assault. However, the showdown is abruptly interrupted by a hail of fire as reinforcements arrive, forcing the Morpho onto the defensive. Reacting quickly, Kiria activates the Morpho's electric wings, unleashing a barrage of lasers that force Shin to retreat and form a protective shield around the mensch. Amidst the chaos of battle, the Morpho briefly disappears from view. The battlefield becomes even more frenzied as missiles rain down. Instead of obliterating the Morpho, these missiles release oil upon impact, which then ignites, engulfing the massive machine in flames. Amidst the fiery chaos and the screams of pain, Kiria's fury remains fixated on Shin. However, amidst the inferno and anger, a vision of Frederica, whom Kiria deeply cherished, materializes before him. Frederica's question about Kiria's unrelenting desire to end the life of someone he had never known, especially a blood relative, echoed Shin's own feelings of purposelessness. Kiria admitted that apart from this vendetta, he had lost all sense of purpose in life. Frederica attempted to ground Kiria by reminding him of their shared past, but her efforts were met with gunfire, the sound of Shin's gun, fired by Frederica, to get Kiria's attention. The sight of Frederica alive momentarily calmed Kiria's rage, but it quickly returned as he accused Shin of manipulating her. In a desperate bid to stop the ongoing conflict, Frederica took a drastic step. She aimed the gun at her own head, baiting Kiria to intervene. Kiria's pleas for her safety revealed the depth of his affection for her, but his anger remained undeterred. In a swift and evasive move, Shin managed to ascend the Morpho with Frederica as his tearful guide. Shin pinpointed Kiria's location within the machine and delivered the fatal blow. As life left Kiria, Frederica witnessed a poignant scene, the departing Kiria moving on to the afterlife, where his brother Xiaorui awaited him. As the safety systems of the Morpho failed, a countdown commenced, ultimately resulting in a massive explosion that reduced the once mighty machine to ashes. Shin narrowly escaped death but lost consciousness. Overwhelmed by a vivid memory of the time his brother tried to strangle him, he was visited by visions of his fallen comrades from the 86 who conveyed their gratitude for his leadership during the war. The overwhelming feeling wasn't pride but guilt. Shin had never wished for their sacrifice, nor the immense pressure of enduring the war's horrors on his own. More than anything, he yearned for their companionship. Upon awakening inside his Rigon Leaf, an overwhelming sense of desolation gripped him, leading him to vocalize his pain. This attracted the attention of a nearby Legion unit that moved to target him. Just as doom seemed imminent, an unidentified force thwarted the Legion. Soon after, Lena worriedly approached Shin's position. In their swift conversation, he learned she wasn't piloting any machine, prompting him to suggest she join him. Lena, connected to her device Cyclops, inadvertently established a link to Shin due to the similar tech they use. To his surprise, Shin recognized the voice of a major he'd only known by reputation. Struggling to maintain his composure, he sought to understand her continued fight. Lena passionately explained that the bravery of Shin and the 86 of Spearhead had been her driving force, urging her to battle on in hopes of a reunion. Her mission was to liberate those who, in turn, had freed her from a life dominated by misguided ideals. This heartfelt revelation deeply affects Shin, instilling in him a newfound appreciation for those who see past societal divisions. Tears of joy streamed down his face. Happy to finally see her, he addresses her as Major and attempts to open his machine's hatch for a face-to-face meeting. However, he hesitates upon spotting another group of Legion units advancing. Fortunately, reinforcements from the Federacy arrive just in time to halt the approaching Legion. Gret contacts Shin, expressing her happiness about the mission's success and letting him know that the other 86 members have also made it through. When they communicate, they share their worries about Shin's momentary motionlessness after the explosion, which had caused concern. Hearing the comforting voices of his comrades fills Shin with deep emotions. Ernst also joins the conversation, updating Shin on the situation of the 86 members in the Republic. He presents them with the choice to return, but Shin firmly decides that they will continue to stay in Jihad. Surviving the explosion, partly thanks to Kiria's sacrifice, Frederica approaches Shin, and their discussion revolves around the idea that Shin can only reunite with Lena once the war is over. Frederica suggests that this will become Shin's new purpose, highlighting that Lena's journey is following the path he forged for Shin. Promising future now lies ahead. The group returns to Ernstine, where they are welcomed by Ernst with Christmas presents, and their spirits appear slightly brighter as they embrace this newfound life of peace. Occasionally, they engage in ordinary activities just like regular people. Shin pays a visit to Eugene's grave, where he shares his renewed goals for continuing the fight. Marcel also arrives at the cemetery to pay his respects to Eugene. After some initial formalities, Shin decides to depart. However, Marcel stops him and confesses to being the one who asked Lena to write the letters she sent. He was burdened with guilt for being powerless in a war that claimed many lives, and he couldn't stand idly by. In a moment of vulnerability, Shin offers comfort, and they seem to be developing a mutual understanding. Lena arrives at the cemetery as well but passes by Shin, who is leaving without recognizing him. She discovers the photo that Shin left, featuring himself with Eugene, and it brings her happiness. She shouts her thanks to Shin, who has already moved out of her sight. Shin goes to the memorial site to place Showery's personal mark tag in a box filled with other tags of fallen 86 members that he has kept with him. He can't envision a future without his brother, but the thought of having other people who care about him makes it more bearable. Lena revisits her home, which now stands lifeless due to the Legion's devastation. The survivors were rescued by other nations like Jihad. She then travels to the Federacy, where she is appointed as the handler for a newly formed squadron tasked with continuing the fight against the Legions and reclaiming the remaining territories. While she takes a moment to wind down and recharge in her room, Annette shows her a communication device that the Federacy possesses, which uses specifications similar to those worn by the 86. Lena starts to consider the possibility that it could be the 86, specifically the 5 members who have already settled in Jad. The following day, Lena heads to meet Ernst, and he guides her to the memorial site. There, she pays her respects to the fallen 86 who had served in her republic. She solemnly swears never to forget them and the promise she had made to these brave warriors. Later, Lena has a scheduled meeting with her new team. She initially feels a bit confused, as she wasn't expecting to meet them at this moment. During her introduction to Shin's group, she expresses her honor at meeting them for the first time. However, an uncontrollable burst of laughter sweeps through the group, making it impossible to maintain a serious tone. Shin calmly interjects, explaining that while this may be their first physical meeting, it's not the first time they've crossed paths. He mentions that it has been a long time since their previous interactions and addresses Lena as their handler. Shin proceeds to introduce himself as the current captain of the Giant Federacy and the former captain of the Spearhead Squad, adding a sense of continuity to their shared history. Tears welled up in Lena's eyes as she listened to Shin's words. A profound sense of emotion enveloped both of them as they shared this reunion, their smiles conveying a wealth of unspoken feelings. Suddenly, the small cat that Lena had been caring for decided to make its presence known. It darted out of Lena's bag and scampered towards the group. Each member called it by a different name, but Lena's realization dawned upon her. Overjoyed, she began addressing each member by their rightful names, and the group shared a heartwarming moment. They even captured the memory with a photograph. Lena expressed her deep connection to their journey, revealing that she had been following them closely for a considerable period. Now she was finally in a position to fight alongside them, ready to stand by their side in their ongoing battle.